We do want to bring you more on our top story this morning. One of the most horrifying episodes of Muammar Qaddafi's reign of terror was 1988 bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. 8 years ago, Qaddafi took responsibility for the blast that killed 270 passengers and crew.
189 of them were Americans, including 35 students from Syracuse University who were returning from London, gone way too soon. Joining us now are Brian Flynn, whose older brother, John, was killed in the bombing, and also Susan Cohen, who lost her daughter, Theodora. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Susan. Brian, let me start with you. You were where when you heard, and you thought what?
I had just dropped my kids off on the bus, and my wife said to me, Qaddafi's been killed. No, he's been captured. No, he's been killed. They can't figure it out. And I had this moment of excitement, and I'd been fantasizing about this moment for 20 years, and I was wondering how I would react. And I think the one reason why it was more excitement rather than just simply satisfaction was the fact that I knew it was tied to the freedom of the Libyan people. It gave it more significance and more meaning rather than just justice. It was tied into the end of tyranny and the freedom of the Libyan people.
The fact that it was the Libyans who did this and not the Americans, or that he wasn't tried in court, you wanted it done this way.
I think this story had to end this way. It's a little bit of poetic justice, and I think that my fantasy was always about American special forces going in and getting Qaddafi, similar to how we were able to kill bin Laden. And I think our reaction there was appropriate. It's a little bit more subdued. In this case, enabling them and empowering the Libyan people to free themselves, I think puts the U.S. in a better situation. And I've actually never been prouder to be an American, the fact that we stood up and supported not just the pursuit of justice, and perhaps it could have been done sooner, but also supported the Libyan people in their pursuit of freedom.
Susan, what about you? As you heard about this and as you're processing it now over the last 24 hours, what's your reaction?
Well, I just feel wonderful. I have waited for years for this, just as Brian has. And if you had asked me a year ago, I would have thought this was impossible. It would never happen. And it happened. I'm going to drink a bottle of champagne. I feel better than I have ever felt since December 20th, 1988, before the bombing.
And that's definitely saying something, considering what these last more than 20 years have been like for the both of you. Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, though, of course, who was convicted of being responsible for the bombing, who is now back in Libya, is still alive. We've heard a number of times that he's allegedly near death, but as far as we know, he's alive today. Susan, is there anything specific that you would like to see happen now, or that you think could happen now in terms of al-Megrahi, given the changes in Libya?
Well, what I hope is that the U.S. Justice Department will send people into Libya, that the Libyan government will cooperate in trying to find out everything we can about the actual details of the bombing, who else might have been involved, how it was done. To me now, that is the most important thing. I mean, I wish Megrahi could be returned to prison, but I doubt that will happen. I think now let's get as much information out of him as he can. I think he'll live quite long enough for that. I've been hearing about his death now for years, and I think he's going to hold on a lot longer.
Brian, do you buy this Megrahi stuff at all? I mean, we've seen the sort of stage pictures of him in bed with the mask on. We were told he was on the verge of death 2.5 years ago and had to be freed at the time.
Right, and we were... Susan mentioned this as one of the best days she's had in 23 years, and that, when Megrahi was released, it was, for both of us, one of the worst days, in large part because we had all worked so hard to try to bring some sense of justice to this. We had one Libyan agent convicted. We knew Qaddafi was behind it. We knew the state of Libya was behind it. But we'd gotten one agent convicted, and through the tireless work of the people in the Justice Department and the law enforcement officials in Scotland, and it was all undermined for cynical reasons. So it was one of the worst days. At this point, I don't believe anything I hear about it. And to Susan's point, we'd love him to serve out his sentence in the United States, because we don't trust the Scots anymore, obviously.
Really appreciate both of you being with us this morning. I know every December you all get together, a lot of the families of the victims, in December at Arlington Cemetery. I would imagine it's going to be a little bit different this year when you all see one another.
We're going to work the champagne in, Susan.
We'll be thinking about both of you. Susan, Brian, thank you both very much.
Thank you.